Hi everyone, so we are from Group 11 Financial Management. Today we want to present about the financial statement from Tenko Holding Berhad and then Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. And so let's see the introduction of both of company, that is Tenko Holding Berhad and then Malaysian Pacific Corporation Berhad. The purpose of this report is to analyze the financial statement of the company which are Tenko Holding Berhad and then Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. Both of company have accommodations such as hotel, luxury, homes and land and high residence, so it was qualified under tourism industry. Financial ratio were used to analysis to interpret and evaluate Tenko Holding Berhad and Malaysia Pacific Corporation into the perform based on financial.
Hi, my name is Nurul Aina Najwa Rosdi. My mention number HFT20304. First of all, I can explain trend analysis. Trend analysis is the analysis of the trend of the company by comparing its financial statement to analyze the trend market or analysis of the future based on past performance results. This is the trend analysis of Tenko Holding Berhad. First, liquidity ratio. The current ratio for Tenko Holding Berhad decreased from 1.055x in 2020 to 0.974x in 2021. The lower Tenko Holding Berhad ability to pay short-term obligation on time, where the quick ratio for Tenko Holding Berhad increased from 0.159x in 2020 to 0.186x in 2021. The higher Tenko Holding Berhad ability to pay its short-term obligation without release on inventories. Next, activity ratio. Total asset turnover for Tenko Holding Berhad has increased from 0.012 in 2020 to 0.016 in 2021. Tenko Holding Berhad has more effectiveness in total asset to generate sale in 2021. Account receivable turnover for Tenko Holding Berhad increased from 1.86 in 2020 to 3.11 in 2021. In the year 2021, Tenko Holding Berhad has higher effectiveness of account receivable to generate sale. Debt ratio. Tenko Holding Berhad debt ratio has decreased from 41.95% in 2020 to 41.90% in 2021. In 2020, Tenko Holding Berhad has a higher amount of debt to finance assets. Debt to equity of Tenko Holding Berhad has decreased from 72.26% in 2020 to 72.13% in 2021. Tenko Holding Berhad has a higher amount of debt suited for the market share in year 2020 compared to the year 2021. Lastly, profitability ratio. Return on equity for Tenko Holding Berhad has decreased from 10.88% in 2020 to 8.58% in 2021. Tenko Holding Berhad had lower return to shareholder in the year 2021 compared to 2020. For Tenko Holding Berhad, the return on asset had decreased from 6.32% in 2020 to 4.99% in 2021. In 2021, Tenko Holding Berhad has a lower return on the investment compared to the year 2020.
Hello, my name is Nursyafiqah Binti Sulaiman. My matrix number is H21A2597. For liquidity ratio of Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad, the current ratio for Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad was decreased from 0.17 in 2020 to 0.09 in 2021. In year 2020, the higher of current ratio of Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad, which is 0.17, has ability to pay its short-term obligation on time. Next, the current ratio for Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad decreased from 0.14 in 2020 to 0.08 in 2021. For activity ratio, total asset turnover for Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has been increasing from 0.03 in 2020 to 0.05 in 2021. So, Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has more effectiveness of total asset to generate sales in 2021 rather than 2020. Next, account receivable turnover for Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad increased from 5.40 in 2020 to 6.26 in 2021. In year 2021, Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has more effectiveness of account receivable to generate sales. For leverage or debt ratio, debt ratio for Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has been increased from 0.83% in 2020 to 0.85% in 2021. In 2021, Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has higher amount of debt to finance assets. Next, debt to equity of Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has been increased from 4.88% in 2020 to 5.66% in 2021. Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has the higher amount of debt structure for the market share in year 2021 compared to year 2020. For profitability ratio, return on equity for Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has been increasing from 0.10% in 2020 to 0.19% in 2021. So, Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has higher of return to shareholders in year 2020 compared to year 2021. For Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad, the return on assets has been increasing from 0.02% in 2020 to 0.03% in 2021. In 2021, Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has higher return on firm's investment compared to year 2020.
As for liquidity ratio, current ratio for Tenko Holding Berhad is 1.055, while Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has 0.17 for current ratio. It means that Tenko Holding Berhad is more capable of paying short-term debt than Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. Secondly, quick ratio that Tenko Holding Berhad has is 0.16 and Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has 0.14. It means that Tenko Holding Berhad more be able to pay off short-term debt compared to Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. Last but not least, for net working capital, Tenko Holding Berhad has more net working capital than Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad, which means Tenko Holding Berhad is more efficient to pay their current liabilities. So, in HFT ratio for the total assets turnover, this shows that Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has efficiently used its asset for generating sales compared to Tenko Holding Berhad. Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad performed well than Tenko Holding Berhad. Next is account receivables turnover. Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has higher account receivables turnover than Tenko Holding Berhad. This means that Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad is greater in collecting debts compared to Tenko Holding Berhad. Okay, next, average collection period of Tenko Holding Berhad is higher than Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad, which means that Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad is more efficient in collecting debt, and because of a high average collection period ratio could indicate troubles with cash flows. For inventory turnover of Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad is higher than Tenko Holding Berhad. This means that Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad sales are good in a given period. Last but not least, for activity ratio, the fixed asset turnover for Tenko Holding Berhad is lower than Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. That means that Tenko Holding Berhad is not using its asset efficiently and may have internal problems, while Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad efficient in generating sales or revenues from its asset base. Debt ratio for Tenko Holding Berhad is higher than debt ratio for Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. The lower debt ratio is better than the high one. It is because higher makes it more difficult to borrow money. Its debt to equity ratio for Tenko Holding Berhad is higher than Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. This means that Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad is better than Tenko Holding Berhad because the lower debt to equity ratio is better as it indicates less debt on a company's balance sheet. Finally, in debt ratio, time interest earned of Tengku Holding Berhad is lower than Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. This means that Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad is better compared to Tengku Holding Berhad because company presents less of a risk to investors and creditors in terms of solvency. Next, we move to profitability ratio. Return on equity of Tengku Holding Berhad is higher than return on equity of Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. This means that Tengku Holding Berhad is better at converting its equity financing into profits. For the return on assets, Tengku Holding Berhad are more able to earn more money with a smaller investment compared to Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. Next, gross profit margin for Tengku Holding Berhad is higher than gross profit margin of Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. This means that Tengku Holding Berhad is more efficiently run and more financially stable than Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. Operating profit margin of Tengku Holding Berhad is better compared to Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad because of the company is earning enough money from business operation to pay for all of the associated costs involved in maintaining that business. Lastly, net profit margin of Tengku Holding Berhad is higher than net profit margin of Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad, which means Tengku Holding Berhad is more efficient at converting sales into actual profit compared to Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad.
My name is Nursyafiqah Wahida Binti Wahab. My matric number is HFT20303. Today I'm going to present about a comparative analysis of Tengku Holding Berhad and Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad for year 2021. First, this is graph of liquidity ratio. There is a current ratio and quick ratio. As you can see, the graph for both current ratio and quick ratio for Tengku Holding Berhad are higher than Malaysian Pacific Corporation Berhad. This is because Tengku Holding Berhad are more capable of paying short-term debt compared to Malaysian Pacific Corporation Berhad. Net working capital graph. Both companies have negative values. Net working capital for Tengku Holding Berhad is higher than Malaysian Pacific Corporation Berhad. It is because it's more efficient pay current liabilities. Graph is equity ratio. There are a few types of equity ratio in this graph. There is a total asset turnover, account receivable turnover, average collection period, inventory turnover, and fixed assets turnover. This is a leverage or debt ratio graph. In this graph, a debt ratio and debt to equity ratio for Tengku Holding Berhad are higher than Malaysian Pacific Corporation Berhad. But in time interest earned, Malaysian Pacific Corporation Berhad are better compared to Tengku Holding Berhad because company prevent less of risk to investor and creditor in terms of solvency. The last graph is a profitability graph. In this graph show all of the item of Tengku Holding Berhad are higher than Malaysian Pacific Corporation Berhad. That means Tengku Holding Berhad company are better than Malaysian Pacific Corporation Berhad in profitability.
Hi guys, my name is Nurul. I'm Binti Hanizan. My matric number HFT20303. Today I want to talk about overall summaries. Analysis of financial statement in progress in comparative line item and comparative financial statement or financial ratios over several years to track the history and progress of the company performance. Based on the overall analysis, we have studied 4 categories of financial ratios such as liquidity, activities, debit, and profitability ratios. Therefore, we agree to choose Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad, which has a better financial performance in the future. Next, other analysis of recollection period is 115.58 of Tengku Holding Berhad, while Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has an average collection period of 57.48. The service period of the Tengku Holding Berhad is higher than Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. That means that Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad is better than Tengku Holding Berhad because it's a higher borrowing period ratio can indicate problem with cash flow production. Finally, strong evidence that we choose Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad is that the company that is free from debit payments delay. Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has a debit ratio of only 0.85% compared to Tangko Holding Berhad, which has a debit ratio higher than Malaysia Pacific Corporation. So, the lower debit ratio is better than the higher debit ratio. Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has a ratio 141.27, while Tangko Holding has a ratio of the 4.47. The time benefit obtained from Tangko Holding Berhad is lower than Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad. This means the Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad is better than Tangko Holding Berhad because the company presents less risks to visitors and creditors in the time of solvency. Lastly, we choose Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad because we see the company showing the good percentage for 2021. The good percentage increase to rise the company names and can advance the company in the coming year.
Hi everyone, based on the overall conclusion, we have studied 4 categories of financial statement ratios, that's as liquidity, equity, debit and profitability ratios. Therefore, we agreed to choose Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad, which has a better financial performance in the future. According to the Bible, in the financial analysis report, Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad has a good financial percentage and it's able to improve the company finances. This means that Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad is better than Tangko Holding Berhad because a high average borrowing period ratio has indicated problem with cash flow production. That's the show before. Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad is better than Tangko Holding Berhad because it's the company present less risks to investor and creditors in terms of solvency. So example, that's the conclusion about this program shows that Malaysia Pacific Corporation Berhad make it possible for finance management to perform at once, thereby being able to move and work faster and complete projects within time and budget. Thank you very much.